All right, JC here for RetireCheap.Asia, and I'm always trying to give people as much information as I can to make decisions.
Right.
You know what I say? There's always what?
An option.
Always an option. That's right. And so, a lot of questions have come up lately about where's an option, because some people can't comply now to these new requirements that Thailand has initiated, requiring people to have this 800,000 baht in an account in Thailand, or the money coming in, and it has to sit there within a certain amount of time. And so people were asking me, you know, I went to Cambodia, and they said, well, when are you going to go back to Cambodia? And I said, well, it's not high on my list anymore because of some criteria that I think are important for foreigners. And that is, you know, about the crime, the safety, and other things too. But basically, I don't think as an aging retiree it's a great place.
Right.
So then I started coming to Vietnam, and I think that was a great option. So anyway, we're in Vietnam, and I'm actually with one of my great members here, Larry. And we're going to talk to Larry because one of the questions that keep coming up is, what about the Philippines? And guess where Larry used to live?
Philippines.
The Philippines, that's right. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Philippines and his journey to where he is now and how he got here and why he got here. But first off, I want to thank you for being a member of our member site.
Yes.
I hope it was helpful in your journey.
Absolutely. It's one of the determining factors of why I came.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. We're always trying to help people to find places where they can get more life for less money, and I think Southeast Asia is a good option.
It is. It really is.
And so, like I mentioned to them, you're from where originally?
I'm originally born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth. Uh-huh.
Then I still have a condominium in Plano, Texas.
Ah, okay. Do you plan? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. When did you start your retirement? I guess you could call it retirement. You still work on and off, so I won't say full-time retirement.
Right. Semi-retired.
Semi-retired.
I still have my own consulting company in Texas, but I use that if I get a consulting scenario over here, that I can use my U.S. company to get paid in the United States versus over here. So I work out of my home here too.
When did you make the move from living in the States to coming to Southeast Asia? How many years ago was that?
About almost 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And I started watching your channel probably another couple of years before that, because I was looking at everything, all the options to plan my retirement.
Yeah. And your initial move from the States was to
Davao, Philippines, and Mindanao Island. 500 miles from the equator.
Yeah. And this comes up about Malaysia as well. And one of the things I mentioned to them is, hey, you're only a couple degrees above the equator. It's not going to, keep that in mind. So you ended up in the Philippines first. What made you choose the Philippines?
Philippines was, I looked at the cost of living in the Philippines. I looked at the surrounding islands in the Philippines, and looked at Davao. Davao was a city where you couldn't smoke in the city, where President Duterte said there'll be no smoking in the city.
Or you get shot, right?
Yeah. But there was no smoking, and they were on crime rate was low in Davao, so that made a decision for me to go. And I liked the city at the beginning and started saying, okay, I'm going to live here and try living here. And I did for 2 years, but then I made the decisions to leave. The people are great there, very kind, very nice. It was just different factors that I said, Larry, it's time to move.
And how long were you there?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
But as you say, you may have to move around a few times to find the exact spot that you want to live.
That's right.
And so I've used that theory, and I left because of the heat. Heat was intense. Living under an air conditioning wasn't my point of view, what I wanted. And the pollution is not, the air is not that clean in Davao, and too many jeepneys, all the pollution and all of that. I thought I wanted to always live by the islands and by the water, and I did. I went snorkeling and did all of that, but after a while the salt water starts to eat away at you, and you say, am I too old for all of this with it? So I made the decision, after seeing one of your shows about Vietnam, I came to up to Dalat and made a couple, 2 or 3 trips here first, and then I decided I was going to move.
And one of the determining factors, of course, because you mentioned the heat, the oppressive heat where you were in Mindanao, is the temperature in Dalat.
Yeah. The temperature here, the cost of living here, surprisingly, is lower than what I paid in the Philippines.
That's interesting.
It's lower than the Philippines. The food is fresher here, living in Dalat with all of the agriculture that's grown. Everything's grown here. So that was one of the big factors. The climate. I've traveled all over the world for 40 years, and this is probably one of the true climates that you don't have to have a heater, you don't have to have an air conditioner, and you can cover up at night and be cool and not hot.
Yeah, I mentioned this in our weekly update on the member site about the temperature here, and some of our European members go, too cold for me, you know. They want the heat and humidity, and we actually had a couple members that came from Ireland. And the wife was like, I said, oh, I'm sorry, it's so hot today. And she's going, hot? No, I love this, you know. And she didn't even break a sweat. She just loved it. So it all depends on what's important to you.
And even though it's 75 or 77 degrees most days, it still feels hot to me unless I go to Ho Chi Minh, and it's really hot in Ho Chi Minh. I said, let me come back to
Yeah, you get to the beaches here in Thailand, Da Nang and Nha Trang, and you get near the beach, and it's just like where we are in Thailand. It's very pleasant by the beach because you get those sea breezes, so you got sort of the best of both worlds.
All of my friends said, Larry, why did you move away so far? And I give them the reasons of the temperate climate here and the people and the cost of living.
Yeah. When they said that, did they mean to Southeast Asia or to Vietnam?
To Vietnam.
To Vietnam. Yeah. So let's do a little bit of a comparison here. How about the cuisine between Philippines and Thailand?
To me, there's no comparison. The Vietnamese food and bordering on close to being Thai type of spices and things, I love and prefer much more here. In the Philippines, I can only eat so much lechon. I can only eat so much
which
of
is pork
adobo and chicken adobo, and to me the food here is outstanding, and there's a lot of different types of restaurants, whether it be Indian, whether it be American foods, whatever you want, it's here in Dalat.
Yeah. And okay, so that's the cuisine. You said the cost of living might be a little bit cheaper here than in the Philippines. Now, your mileage might vary depending on where you lived in Vietnam or where you lived in the Philippines. So this can vary a lot.
Right.
And I'm going to do a video for YouTube about cost of living here. And they do vary so much depending on your lifestyle.
Yeah, it does.
And so how about safety?
Safety, I feel more secure here and safe than anywhere. Dalat is more of a family type environment. It's not a nightclub. They have karaoke clubs here, but there's not a nightclub bar type atmosphere. It's more of a family atmosphere and family restaurants, and it's a little bit slower pace here.
Now it's interesting you said that, because in Mindanao, was there a lot of karaoke and nightclub kind of thing?
A lot.
Oh, really?
A lot of nightclubs, a lot of karaoke clubs.
Because here, we have to keep in mind it's still a communist country here, and so we've been to Hue, Nha Trang, Da Nang, and Dalat, and all sorts of cities, and I've never seen it anywhere here, the nightclub scene. I have seen karaoke places, but they're few and far between.
In Ho Chi Minh, there's quite a few bars and places like that, but here, not really. You get the tourists, you get a lot of Vietnamese tourists coming here because of the climate. They want to get out of the heat during the summer, and they come here. So it's pretty laid back here.
What about the cleanliness, the sanitation issues?
Most of the tourist areas and the main areas are very clean. If you go to some of the back streets and things like that.
In Mindanao or here?
No, in Mindanao there's a lot of poverty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of poverty. Don't see that type of poverty here. Maybe here, but I don't see it, and I don't see a lot of people begging here for anything. So there's no comparison. It's cleaner here.
We've been here a month, and the first time I was approached by a beggar, it was a little kid about 2 or 3 days ago. And I was standing in a bakery, an open bakery, and the parents shuffled the kid up to me with the handout, and it was just like, but that was the only time in a month that anybody's ever approached me.
Most of the little kids are wanting to speak a little bit of English here, and they'll go, hello, hello, sir.
Hey, that's a good point to bring up. I've actually said that I think more people speak English in Vietnam than they do in Thailand as a whole, especially the young people, for sure. But of course, in Philippines, that is one of their primary languages is English, even though I have difficulty sometimes, even just like with Brits and Australians, and sorry if you are British or Australian, it's depending on what part of the country they're from. In all of those, even though they speak English, I have sometimes hard time distinguishing the words.
Yes.
And so, have you found it, even though they don't speak English as a primary language here, have you been able to communicate okay?
Yes, I do. And I have probably more Vietnamese friends here than I do expats. So I enjoy the people here. And I guess if I wanted all the expats, I'd go back to live in Dallas. But here, I have a lot of Vietnamese friends. They're really good friends. They're outgoing. Go to dinners, lunches, things like that with them. But the ones that I'm around here, like I have a driver, he speaks English. And so it just makes a difference when you can speak English to someone. And most of them will try. And if they can't fully understand, then I use Google Translate or show them a picture of what I want.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, okay.
What I've encountered here is if the person that I'm addressing can't speak real well, what they usually have is within earshot of them is somebody
around.
Yeah, and they'll call them over, and then all of a sudden they come up into speaking great English, and it's like, wow, that's...
With all the tourists that come here, though, they have to try to learn it, and there's a lot of schools now that are teaching English. A lot of companies are teaching their employees. I spoke at one of company training that is training their employees for English so they could have a dialogue with me, and they really are wanting to learn English because of that's their growth in business and to help them make more money too.
Yeah, the lady that we've been renting a place from here, she said that English is taught to her kids in school.
Yeah.
And that's why I found anybody that's under the age of 30 here can speak a little bit of English, and then depending, like you say, if they're in an area where there's any amount of foreigners or they're in hospitality industry, they can speak well.
Yeah, and they're wanting to learn more because the growth in the business is growing, the economy is growing so much here that they need more English speakers.
It's booming here.
It's gone crazy here.
Yeah. And so as far as my criteria for someplace I always think to live, it's got to be a good value for the American dollar. The cuisine has to be good. I have to enjoy the food because eating's one of my passions. And also the people have to be friendly.
Right.
And so Vietnam fits that criteria. The Philippines, there was a lot of reasons why I spent a lot of time earlier in my travels in the Philippines. And a couple things. And I've had Filipinos actually contact me interested in living in Thailand.
Right.
And I asked them, I said, there's foreigners that want to go live in the Philippines. Why would you want to go live in Thailand? You know what his answer was? I don't want to carry a gun to the market anymore. And I don't want to have to pay the police. I built my own house on my own property and had to pay the police to move into my own house.
The security
and so
issues
the corruption and
the security issues when you went to a mall in the Philippines in Davao, you had to go through security and you had to go through a metal detector and all of that. Here we don't have that.
No.
It's very peaceful here. You see very few policemen here, really.
yeah, you don't.
You see a few ambulances that go by, but it's still just a small town with a lot of tourists.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that was an issue for me in the Philippines, and it might have changed because I haven't been there for a while, but it almost was like open sewage. And what I mean by that is their sanitary system the infrastructure wasn't set up where, I mean, when I would walk down the streets, even in Manila, or Cebu,
get the smell and
the stench would come out of the sewers, and it was just.
Yeah.
I saw a show on Amazing Race, and one of their stops was in Manila, and they were riding in the jeepneys. They're all in a race and going, and the people are holding their nose and stuff, and also commenting on what they saw, the poverty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those were some issues that.
Well, Vietnam has taken off and grown much more rapidly than the Philippines. They're much more progressive here than in the Philippines, and easy for a foreigner to open up a business here.
Yes, foreigners can work
in the Philippines. You had to be minority owner in your own company and have a Filipino board of directors.
That's the way it is in Thailand.
And here you can wholly own your own company, and you be the everybody. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great option, and because it's such a diverse country. I mean, you have Sapa in the north above Hanoi that's in the beautiful mountains, and actually gets snow up there sometimes of the year. And you have Hanoi, the old district, the historic district. I like that in Hanoi.
Yeah. Well, this year I was going through the first year and getting completely settled. And then next year what I want to do is really go out and explore Vietnam. Go to different areas, go to different islands, go and see more of the people and enjoy it.
Yeah, and I'm sure while people have been watching this, they've also heard the noise.
Yes.
And one of the things, and people say, oh, you need to get a better microphone or something like this. And I always say, you know, I could find some place that's going to be quiet. It might be a little difficult to find, but I could find it. But that wouldn't be reflective of what life is really like
Correct.
In Southeast Asia as a whole. Now, you can find quiet places. Nat and I go camping up in the mountains in Thailand. But as a whole, it's a very social culture. Now, in Thailand, they don't honk the horns. Here they do. In the Philippines, I think they honk the horns in the Philippines as well.
They do, but not as much as they do here.
Yeah, they like the horn here. So that comes along with the territory. And I'm sort of happy there's no utopia in one place that has everything with the weather, the cost, and everything, because everybody would be there. It's like what happened in America and California. Everybody went there, and all of a sudden the dynamics changed. It became very expensive and everything, and, you know, a lot of downside to that. So what I hope to do is show more places for people to have an option to retire, not just countries like Thailand and Vietnam, but also within those countries. There's so much diversity and so many places to see.
Yeah, man, I tell my sister, my daughter, and her husband back home, I said I could not be happier living here in Dalat with the temperature, the climate, the fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. I've become almost a vegetarian, eating more fresh vegetables here.
I've never seen this many vegetarian restaurants in any city, including Chiang Mai. And I think there's a day of the week or day of the month or something that there's a vegetarian day or something like that.
Absolutely, and but I couldn't be any more pleased, really. No. And I'd gone from being really unhappy in the Philippines to saying, where can I get to? And then saw your show first about when you were first trip you made to Dalat. I said, I'm going there to look. And I did, and I came up, and as you said, get a place and then start looking around for a place to live. Just don't jump at the first thing.
Yeah.
I did that,
and how much are you paying for your place?
I pay $301 a month here. And
we'll round it to $300.
$300, so that includes everything, all the utilities, internet, cable, water, sewer, garbage.
And it's 1 bedroom and 2 bath?
It's it's 2 rooms, and I made one room a living room and dining room, and then made the other one master bedroom.
And then you have a little mini kitchen outside on
Yes, I've got a kitchen outside. It's fully enclosed except for the door entrance. And it's outside of the 2 rooms, so which I didn't know if I'd like, but I do like because I can cook and it doesn't smell the house.
That's right. And you have this great porch that we're sitting on.
Yes, the deck
with a great view.
Nice view. It's beautiful here, and get the breezes coming down from the west, coming down through the valley here, so it's really nice.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you for sharing your story and your opinion about both the Philippines and Vietnam.
My pleasure, and I wish anyone that's contemplating looking, come here and look, because it's a beautiful, wonderful place to live.
Yeah, I like Vietnam as a whole. We've traveled all over the country, and we didn't go to any place that I would get there and go, no, I wouldn't want to live here. People have been good. Now, at first, I had a little bit of issue with the older people. They weren't very friendly.
I remember that on some of your shows.
Yeah, and I apologize. It's funny because the second trip we came over and we started communicating with the younger people, and they were so helpful and friendly and everything. So at the end, before we left, I did an apology on Da Nang Beach. Hey, I want to apologize a bit. People said, why are you kissing? Well, yeah, you know, it'd be really harsh for me saying I made a mistake about the people. And there was some harsh criticism.
Yeah, I think the older ones here, the language issues and scenarios, they don't even want to look at Google Translate or anything
No.
like that. They are just, if you want to buy how many kilos and Get and go.
And if you look at their, you know, the older people, what they've gone through before it became this capitalist, socialist society, whatever you want to call it, I can understand why they have some, you know.
Yeah, but this population is changing. I think I'd read to where 2/3 of the people are under 35 years old.
Yeah, I read
the
that
population.
too. Amazing.
And that's amazing, and the growth potential here is just really unreal. It's growing so fast.
Yeah.
But I hang out here and be quiet.
Well, there you go. I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been informative. You can leave any questions or comments, and if you want me to reach out to Larry and answer any questions. By the way, guess how old this guy is? You're not going to believe this. I mean, he looks better than I do, and he's 70. Oh, man, whatever you're doing, keep it up, you know. And so, if you like what we're doing, like and subscribe. Think about becoming a member of our member site too. You know, we try and support, unlike other, you know, informational site. I mean, we try and support and help people.
I got out of the pressure and stress environment, so left that behind. Maybe I could have kept working really hard and make more money, but my being peaceful and relaxed is most important. I made those decisions.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could play a small part in your journey, and think about becoming a member of the member site. Like and subscribe, and till we see you again, Larry and JC out. See ya. Hey, JC here. My goal is always to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be, which is probably a life in Thailand. And I know a lot of questions come up about all sorts of things regarding insurance and vehicles, transportation, housing, relationships, getting licenses, all that stuff. And I want to help you by answering as many questions as I can. And if I can't answer them, then I'll reach out to you personally. But I'm going to leave a link in the description to where you can click on that and be able to tell me what it is that you're interested in and what kind of information, and I'll be able to try and answer it, because I'm probably not going to be able to answer it within the YouTube comments anymore because of time constraints. It's just getting to be too much of a task to go through all the comments. So if you have a question, direct it to me. There'll be a link in the description, and I'll be back in touch with you to try and get as much relevant information to you as I can. Remember, when it comes to getting the information you need about retiring in Thailand, there's always an option. See you, JC out. Hey, JC here. If you like that video, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel here. Also, we have another video up here you're going to be really interested in watching as well. And if you're looking for all the details of how to retire in Thailand in one place, plus a group of people to support you, check this out over here. Give it a click.